Welcome to Yeshiva Daf, Shir sponsor Louis Nishmat, I'm Yaakov Shalom now, Yechezkel. We're holding in Horayos Daf Vav. We're starting in Daf Hamud base towards the bottom, 3 lines in the bottom of the Hamud. Saying what Tanya, Yab Shimon Omer, Matalmud Loimar, Uparsheni ben Bokor, Tikach Lechatos. It says Parsheni Bokor Lechatos, which means, now, the pasuk that the Gemara is going to bring over here is that it's the beginning has nothing to do with anything we're talking about, but it leads into a point that we want to try to bring to connect to our sugya. Now, what is our sugya? Our sugya is the machlekes that we had in the Mishnah. The 3 opinions. 3 opinions in the Mishnah are what? Shita, who brings the korban hel dovo shel tzibur? According to Rabbi Meir, the one who brings prayer hel dovo shel tzibur is the Beis Din. According to Rabbi Yudo, every shevet brings its own korban, and if you have the majority of the shvatim, the minority of shvatim follow the majority, and Rashi said even 2 shvatim will make everybody else follow them. And Rabbi Shimon holds that every shevet brings, Beis Din brings, but not the people, the shvatim that did not do the chet. So the Gemara says like this, it says in the pasuk, what is going to tell you? If you want to tell me that there's 2, and it says that in the pasuk it says when we talk at the beginning of the Bamidbar, so you have two animals. It says the second will be a chatos. Why have to tell me that the second one is for a chatos? You want to tell me that there's 2 animals? Well, like right now, I already know that. It says in the pasuk, it says already. It says in the psukim, and that same parak, it's a pasuk a little later. It says there'll be one for chatos, one for oilo. Why have to tell me I'm doing a second one for chatos? I already know that. Could it be that the chatos of the levim will be eaten, or is it the stugir source over here? To say chatas halavim, chatas levim. Or we talk about the chatos that belongs to levim will be eaten, or the chatos will be eaten by the levim. Which means we're saying the reason why we have an extra pasuk is to tell you that we're comparing the chatos to the oil. What's a korban oil? Korban oil goes fully on the mizbech. Right? What's a korban oil? Korban oil goes 100% mizbech. Nobody eats it. Now I'm comparing the korban chatos to the korban oil because I want to say that they both are not going to be eaten. This is all in the beginning of Chosh Bamidbar, just to see it inside to know what we're talking about. It's Parshas Ba'al Yisro, sorry, Parshas Ba'al Yisro. So it says over there they're going to come and be making the levim. Right? You're going to do something for the levim. What are you going to do for the levim? They're going to, in order to make the levim into the levim, what do I do? I bring korbanos. So it says over there, and then it says, why you say it twice? That's what's bothered by. To tell you that they both have a din like a oil, that you don't need it. That is the first drasha. The drasha has to do with the levim. Nothing really, not much to do with us, but this leads us to the next drasha. It says over there, we find something very similar. What do we find? We have this Gemara in Masechus Tzmura as well. Now the pasuk says over there, when they came from Goyla, when they came from Bavel, so they're makriv korbanos. What did they do? Parim shnei moser al kol Yisrael. They brought 12 parim for all Am Yisrael. I'm just reading the pasuk on the side. Eilim tishim mishisha, 96 eilim. Kvasim shivim mishiva, 77 kvasim. Tzfiri chatos shnei moser, and they brought 12 chatos. Hakol oil Hashem, everything was oil. So we have a list of korbanos that Am Yisrael brought when they came to Eretz Yisrael back from Bavel. And there's chatos, oil, and they said hakol oil. Says the Gemara, hakol oil. Hakol oil, what do you mean? We just said in this pasuk they brought a chatos. Chatos is different korban than oil. Efshar shechatos oil. It's not oil. So The pasuk lists a whole list of korbanos, and the pasuk ends by saying everything is oilo. It's not everything oilo. Ela kol ke oilo. Ma oilo loy necheles of chatos loy necheles. Same idea. When they treated everything like oilo, then nobody ate the chatos. That's what it is. The Tanyo, or Vetanyo, or Chenayo, Bidoimer, always kechovim iviyum. They brought it for Avodah Zarah. What? And they brought it for Avodah Zarah. And really what? As Rashi says, Rashi, the Rivan as we mentioned before, is bringing the Rivan over here. He says that this is considered to be they came. This is not just stam a korban that they brought. They brought it for the tzibur. Chatas tzibur. And chatas tzibur is not eaten. That's why we mentioned everything is oil. Why was chatas tzibur? What was the purpose of this chatas tzibur? They brought it for the Avodah Zarah that did entire tzidkiyo. Let's remember the sequence, the history. How does it go? Basically, the Yeshiva was built for 410 years. In the end of the Yeshiva, the king was tzidkiyo. He was the last king. And Am Yisrael were singing with Avodah Zarah. The Yeshiva was destroyed. 70 years passed, and they come back there to Israel to build Yeshiva second time. Now when they come back, they bring korbanos for kapara on the generation that was 70 years ago. That did Avodah Zarah. That's what they bring it over here. Now this rush that we brought till now, some take away part of the gears over here. We brought it by the way. We brought this drush. Russia mentioned that they brought korbanos, and even though it's a chat, it's called oil until he didn't eat it. Why didn't he eat it? Because it was a korban tzibur. Why korban tzibur? For Avodah Zarah. Well, now we're coming to where we want to get to in our sukkah. Now we're telling you that they brought korbanos for Avodah Zarah. And they brought how many korbanos? They brought 12. They brought 12. That's what it says in the pasuk. They brought 12 korbanos. It says something more like this. I understand why they brought 12 chatos according to Rabbi Yehuda. According to Rabbi Yehuda, when you have Am Yisrael made a mistake, the Gemara is going to ask in a moment, was it a mistake? But the more now understands it's a mistake. So I bring a chatos for every shevet. So I have 12 chatos because it's 12 shvatim. Perfect. Inam, he says the Gemara, you can add even more. The chatos shiva shvatim, maybe you want to tell me 7 shvatim did a chait. V'shara einoch begriro. According to Rabbi Yehuda, even if 7 shvatim did a chait, the other 5 will follow suit. Because once 7 bring korbanos, all 12 bring korbanos. So I'm good. According to Rabbi Yehuda, I understand what's the idea of the 12. But Reb Shimon, so that's Rabbi Yehuda. What about Reb Shimon? Shimon now mashkaret lo. Hi, according to Reb Shimon, don't forget, every Shimon brings a korban, but also Bezim brings a korban. So why here it's 12? Mashkaret lo, you could find it. You're going to chot to a chadas shvatim. 11 shvatim made a chet. Temaiseh chadas sirim. Each one of them brings his own korban. V'hidach the Bezim. According to Shimon, I also can explain how I get to 12. 11 shvatim and 1 bezdim. Eller meir don bezdim mevim v'lo tzibur. But according to Meir, the only one who brings the korban is bezdim. Shtei mesoyechim mashkachet lo. How do you get to 12? You never get to 12 according to Meir. It's 1. Says the Gemara kegoin. The chatu v'adu atres hazim. You want to tell me the way it works is they did the chet 12 times. Every time they do the chet, have to be a korban. Korban tzibur. They did it 12 times. Bring 12 korbanos. That's what it is, according to Amir. But the ones that did the chet died. Back to the history. We're talking about 70 years after Beis Hamikdash was destroyed. They all died. Maybe a korban for someone who died. We have a din. We'll see it on the base a little bit more specific. That there is a korban chatos that the owner died. What do you do with the korban chatos? You kill it. So korban chatos, it doesn't have an owner, you kill it. Here you don't have the word instead of no owner. Says the Gemara, that's what? It's what? It's the animili biyochid. Avaloi betzibur. The fishein misa betzibur. Very good. That's only when you have a individual. But by tzibur, there's no such thing. There's a klal, ein tzibur meis. A tzibur, a group, doesn't die. So you may say, yes, some people from Am Yisrael died, but Am Yisrael as a whole still owes the korbanos. So when we know that, how do you know such a thing? It says in the pasuk that under your fathers comes the sons. So it means that the children continue the fathers. Use the pasuk. Who says it's talking about a tzibur only? Ella dukeder papa misir de shchodesh. Learn from shchodesh. You bring sir shchodesh, which is a kapara, as we learn in Masechet Shavuos, right? That sir shchodesh is a kapara, and you bring it every month from the money of the lishka, which is the donation of Am Yisrael. V'amaisum Yisrael. But some people in Am Yisrael die. Every month, people die. So some of the members that gave the tzedakah to the Beis Hamikdash are not here. Says the Gemara, so the ones that are left over, how do they bring? It's a little confusing here in the words, because you have Maisi and Maisu. Maisi means dead, Maisu means bring. The ones that are left, how do they bring? Because there's some people that died. You see from here that if it's tzibur, people die, that doesn't affect the tzibur. So when you tell me, what's the raya? Maybe people didn't die that month. How can you compare? For Chodesh, we don't know. You say people died, maybe not. Maybe yes, I don't know how many people. I don't know what happened this year. Maybe people didn't die. So immediately, I don't know. Maybe people from the tzibur didn't die. Maybe people that died were not part of the tzibur. Someone to say maybe they're not part of Am Yisrael and Eretz Yisrael. So I don't know for sure. But here they sure died. So don't bring it around from Rosh Chodesh. Ela taimod der papa meochav in the following dichtiv kaper la'amcho Yisrael shepadiso Hashem. Right? The pasuk says in the Dvarim that when we bring Egla Arufa, we say a kapara. Horayos shtechaper al yotzei Mitzrayim. It says shepadiso Hashem. We bring a kapara even for people that go out of Mitzrayim. Menachtiv shepadiso. So you see that we bring a kapara for yotzei Mitzrayim, but they died already. You see the Beit Tzibur, you don't see that. Midomi also kulu itniun. Just one second. Okay, you want to tell me that you could do a kapara on the mason? This is a bit different thing we spoke about it in the past. Is there such a thing of kapara for mason? The Sefer Chassidim has a whole thing about it. The whole idea of yiskor, that we do yiskor, do we do kapara and mason? Can we do kapara for people that died? It's a good hara, good shaila. You could maybe do it when you have people that are allowed to have a kapara. So once the living people getting kapara, I can give kapara to Mason too. That's what we do yiskor on Yom Tov. Midami, hasu kulu idna. Everybody's alive. You can do mechapra chayim, mechapra mea Mason. You bring kapara for the living, you bring kapara for the dead. But here, we're talking about that they did kapara for 70 years ago. They all died. Says the Gemara, ein echidami. No. You're right. There's a lot of people that are still alive. Dichtiv. The pasuk says that many of the Kohanim, Levim, and the heads of the Ovis, as Kenim, that I'm reading the pasuk inside, it's brought here on the side. They saw the original Beis Hamikdash. Then they saw this house. They're crying. Why? Because when they built Beis Hamikdash was a very, very shvacha house. Only later, 200 years later, they built it back to the glory of the Binyan Horayos. But before that, not. Now, so they cried. They said, look at that. We had a huge Beis Hamikdash, now it's much less. So they were crying. So you see, the many that were in Beis Hamikdash were still alive. So that's why you can be a carbon on that generation. Says the Gemara, maybe they are just a minority, not a majority. Hachtiv, or the pasuk is, meaning, what it says there in the pasuk is, when they came to build Beis Hamikdash, there was two groups of people. It was a group of people from the new generation. They were all happy, celebrating building Beis Hamikdash. The people from the previous generation, they were crying because they saw the comparison of Beis Hamikdash Sheni was so much less than Beis Hamikdash Rishon. The Gemara says, the pasuk says, that the crying was much greater than the celebration. There was more people crying than people celebrating. So you see that the crying were more. Now, here, and that's what it says, V'akol nishma l'merchek. Now, here, there's a problem here. Rashi, the Pirush Rashi that we have here says, that maybe, he explains the question and answer of the Gemara, that maybe the majority of the people of Beis Hamikdash Rishon died, and only a minority left. So you want to tell me that once you have kapara on the living, you have kapara on the dead, and not necessarily tzibur don't die. But here the majority died. So you can't say that. That's like more understands according to the question, according to Rashi. The Gemara answers, no, look how many were there. There were more people from the previous generation than the current generation. Says Tosarash, what's the right? All you see here is that in the number of people that came to Eretz Yisrael to build Beis Hamikdash Sheni, there were more for the original generation than the new generation. But it doesn't tell me that for the original generation, the majority are here. That's what he asks. So the Evertei Sorosh learns the question and answer of the Gemara differently. The question of the Gemara is, I understand, once you bring kapar for the living, you bring kapar for the dead. But here the living from the previous generation are a minority. So they're not the ones that are, you want to bring a korban for them, but they're not here. The majority is a new generation. So they can't bring for the previous generation. So they want to know, the previous generation right now, when they built Beis Hamikdash Sheni, they were the majority. And just think about it. I mean, what does more say according to Sorosh? And really, according to Rashi as well, that's the pasuk. When they came to build Beis Hamikdash Sheni, the majority of the people that came were people that lived during Beis Hamikdash Rishon. And mainly because they're the majority, they can bring kapar on themselves, and mainly they can bring kapar for the dead. That's what Sorosh explains, the Shakra Tower of the Gemara. And if you think about it, it's really fascinating. Because the people that came from Beis Hamikdash Rishon were at least 70-something years old. Because between Beis Hamikdash Rishon and Beis Hamikdash Sheni, there's 70 years. And they said that they remember the Beis Hamikdash Rishon. So they're at least 75 or older. You want to tell me that the majority of Am Yisrael were old people. This goes back to the fact when Ezra was asking Am Yisrael to come, not everybody came. Seems like many of the young people did not come. A lot of the old people came, but not many of the young people. That's what comes out from our Gemara. Says the Gemara, a simple question. What do you mean? The whole Shakla Tower over here is they brought Korban Chatos because they made a mistake and did everything. They didn't make a mistake, they did it b'mezid. Says the Gemara, you're right. Really, they should not bring a Korban. Because it's amazing. But it was the Rosh Shah to bring a Korban. That makes sense. Not so. It says in the same pasuk we read it before. Elim Tisha Tishimishisha. There's 96 Elim. Kvasim Shivim Sheva, 77 Kvasim. Can I get me? Why do you bring all these Korbanos? Elo Rosh Shah Chanam Rosh Shah. It's a Rosh Shah. Now here there's a discussion. I have to understand the Gemara. The way say Pshat is not so. What Tosafos says over here. Tosafos says, according to this, all our question, there's no rayas, nothing. The whole thing was a Rosh Hashanah. Meaning, it's a special occasion, special mitzvah, not regia to us, you can't learn from here anything. Or we say no. The only Rosh Hashanah was that even though they were amazing, we will treat them like shogeg. That's it. That's all we're doing. But except that, you have to follow the rules of shogeg. So do we still have a raya from here to us? That's debate. Going back to the idea of a ru basing, you have tzibur and basing, especially according to Shimon, and we'll see in the Gemara in a moment, more explains it. But basically, he says like this: if one of Beis died, they're going to be potter. If one of the tzibur dies, they're chayav. So like Mantan, who's saying it? The chief is Rameir. So they say, who brings the korban? Bezim brings the korban. If one of the tzibur died, Bezim is still alive. Who brings the korban? The Bezim. I don't care that the tzibur have someone dead. But the more understands, according to Rameir, the Bezim bring the korban, it has a din of korban ashutfim. Rashi says over here, it's not mamish korban ashutfim. But it means it's not a korban tzibur like the regular korban tzibur. Korban tzibur usually comes from the tzibur. Here, basically bring it. So it's not a korban tzibur. So that's why if they're shutfim, if one of the partners dies, it ruins the carbon. Right? This is the big yisoid that the Ramban tells us, that there's a difference between shutfim and tzibur. This is clear in our Gemara. Shutfim or partnership. Tzibur is a new entity. If you want to be mekarev to our understanding, in today's corporate America, there's something called a corporation, and there's something called the LLC, limited partnership. What's the difference? A limited partnership is a bunch of partners that got together and created, and they have something together as partners. A corporation is a new entity. Nothing to do with who the owner is. Tzibur is a new entity called Tzibur. A shutfim is partners get together. So the Beis Din are partners. If one of them died, you're missing one of the owners. A tzibur is a new entity. So why are you saying it's from me? It says from Shimon. Torah Beis Din ibat tzibur. They say, according to Shimon, who brings the carbon? Beis Din brings the carbon, and the tzibur brings the carbon. So meisei chol min tzibur chayovim dein tzibur meisi. When the tzibur dies, you still bring a carbon because tzibur don't die. Meisei chol Beis Din pturim kedamina. Why are you saying it's your man? Shimon can work with it as well. I'll tell you too, I don't know Shimon. Not because technically it doesn't work with Shimon. It works with Shimon. But we heard, according to Shimon, that chatas hashutrim eino mesa. Meaning, according to Shimon's opinion is that when you have partners and one of them dies, you don't kill the chatas. So you want to tell me that if one of Beis Din dies, it ruins the carbon because one of the shutfim dies? That doesn't work according to Shimon because it didn't cheat of Shimon. The Shimon said the partners don't ruin a carbon. The Tanya, par v'sei sheyom kippurim she'ovdu. You have a par v'sei sheyom kippurim, one of the carbonas of Yom Kippurim, they got lost. You replaced it. Yamusu kulam divrei Rabbi Yudo. You kill all the extra ones, because they have a din of a chatos, right? Chatos belongs to tzibur that you have extra, you kill it. They say you don't kill it, you let it graze until it gets a blemish, and then you sell it. Chatos tzibur doesn't die. So mimela what? Now what are we talking about over there? We're talking over there in the Karbonos of Yom Kippurim that come for the Koyanim. The Gemara understands at this stage, even though the Gemara calls the Chatas HaTzibur, but it's not Chatas HaTzibur. The Gemara understands because it's a din of the Shutrim, that all the Koyanim are partners in this carbon. So you see over here that when the owners of the carbon are not an individual, but are a few people together, you don't kill the carbon. So here, will not kill the carbon. Says the Gemara, you bring a right for Koyanim? Shani Koyanim, they could call. The Koyanim are called at Tzibur. Call. Tichtiva Koyanim al kol ama kol yichaper. Now what's the right from the pasuk? We're comparing the Koyanim to the call. Like we're equating them. So there, the one understands right now, they're called call as well. Machlokes Rashi, Tosha Rosh, and understand. But it says the fact you have call and Koyanim, the Koyanim consider to be called. So the one that follows on the base. According to this, Nesu par b'hoiro. According to you, they have the Koyanim considered to be a call. I have a different problem. What's the problem? We said that every Shiva brings his own carbon. Why the Koyanim don't bring a carbon? You want to tell me the Koyanim do bring a carbon? Feilu Shvatim. How many Shvatim we mentioned in the Mishnah? 12. 7 plus 5. Why it's only 12? You have one for the Koyanim. Right? Why you said only 12? Anybody in Shad Levi does not go into call. That's the possible will make you a call. The call, and it says over there, right, regarding Yaakov Avinu, it says achuz by call. Kol sheyesh la'achuz kol, kol she'en la'achuz lo kol. In order to be a call, you have to have an inheritance in Eretz Yisrael. And Koyanim don't have an inheritance in Eretz Yisrael. It says when Kechasru Yud B'Shvatim. So one says, like, well, I don't understand. If you said Levi don't belong, this is all like a sidebar over here. He was asking, trying to figure out that we said every Shevi brings a carbon. Every Shevi brings a carbon. That is, so that's where we get to 12. But you took it Levi. So you have only 11. Amar Abaye, Ephraim u'Menashe Keruvim v'Shimon Yuli. Ephraim and Menashe are 2 Shvatim. That's we have 12. Amar Rov v'Achtiv al Shem Achim Yikor ben Achalosom. The only thing that Ephraim and Menashe are called the Shvatim regarding Nachlo. Le'Nachlo Kshuv L'L'Gavacher. Only to Nachlo they added to the Shvatim, not to something else. So you want to tell me they're not considered to be Shvatim for other things? We know there's 12 golim, 12 flags around in when Am Yisrael traveling. And 2 of them are Ephraim and Menashe. That's what we see in the Horayos. We shouldn't discuss where we know it from, that the golim are compared or equated to Nachlo. Whereas Nachlo is a degel. We give a cover for the degel, and without going too much into the lumdus behind it, but the idea is if they have their own nachlo, they have their own degel, their own flag. Says the Gemara of Achuluki ben Nisim, there's a special a nasi for Ephraim, a nasi for Menashe. How lachlo covered the Nisim? That's also give you cover to the Nasim. The time you're Shloim also design Yimei Chanukah. Shloim HaMelech, how many days of Chanukah's Mizbeach? Chanukah's Mizbeach was 7. 7 and 7 double, let's call 7. Why did Moshe do 12? To give cover for the Nasi. So you're right, it's some idea you're giving cover for the Nisim, that the every Nasi gets a Chashivas. So seemingly it looks like this Ephraim and Menashe not really Shvati for everything, but at least we're giving cover for their Nasi and giving them Chashivas. But so what comes out according to this? So according to Rashi's understanding, what's the understanding we spoke about till now, what comes out? The Gemara is asking, the Levim were not a call. So someone saying the Levim were not a call, so who are the Shvatim? So it's a more side discussion. So I'll tell you what the issue is. If the Levim are not in discussion, who is the 12 Chatos that we bring, is the 12 Shvatim, including Ephraim and Menashe. So that's not true, because Ephraim and Menashe are not supposed to be 2 Shvatim, the only 2 Shvatim regarding Nachlo, the Golim, the Nisim, but not for other things. So the Gemara says, you see how Levi is considered to be called. So we want to say, according to where Rashi understands. Teisa Rosh argues over here, and Teisa Rosh wants to say a little bit of Pshat and Sugya, right? So how do we explain? But let's just sneak here to Rashi. According to Rashi, right now, seemingly the Gemara concluded that who is the 12 Shevet? Not Ephraim and Menashe. Who is it? Levi. So we have a rayo from the fact, you want to tell me the Levim and Koyanim called a call. So mainly when they bring the Korbanos and Yom Kippur, the fact that you don't kill it is because it's Tzibur, not because Shutfim. Says the Gemara, Ma'yav. So what are you going to do with this? Meaning, Teis Rosh asked Rashi, what are you going to do with this? You just said, I have no rayo. And we don't have, that we just conclude that we have no rayo to tell me that, and we go back to the question we said before, why don't you say that this rice is Rav Shimon? Says the Gemara, this is something we're going to see Be'ez Hashem mentioned a few times through Seder Kachim. The rule is that 5 chatois die, which means Karbonis, they have some issue with it. If it's not a chatos, so you replace them. Let's say the owner died. Or classic example, the korban oila. You let the animal get a blemish, and then you sell it, and with the money you bring a new oil. Why is that so? Because the oil is replaceable. I can bring as many oils as I want. I can donate oils. But chat is not replaceable. Chatos comes for a specific purpose, and if it did not serve the purpose, so you can't bring it anymore. So the rule is that the 5 cases of chatos that the owner dies, the animal dies. Meaning, if you can't use it, it dies. That's the rule. What's 5 chatos? Vlad chatos, when the chatos gave birth. V'tmuras chatos, or you replace the chatos with another animal. Tmura means that you did an exchange. The chatos shemesa ba'aleh, or if the owner died. The chatos sheskapu ba'aleh, if the owner used another animal for chatos. The chatos shovashtas, or chatos is more than 1 year old. These are the 5 chatos. We all learn from psukim. What do you do with the chatos that is not usable? You kill it. By a tzibu, you can't have chatos. Why? Because chatos by individual is a female. So can have a child, can have a vlad. But by a tzibur, it's a male. There's no vlad by a male. Shein tzibur officially cave. They don't bring in the cave. You can't say tomorrow with tzibur. Shein tomorrow with tzibur. The idea of tomorrow that will get them Maseches tomorrow. The fact you do an exchange from an animal to an animal, which is a whole sugi in its own, it's only by individual, not by a tzibur. Like we said before, shein tzibur meisi. So out of the 5 chatois they have to kill because they become pasul, 3 of them don't apply to a tzibur. What about the other 2? That's what Gemara is asking. What happens if the tzibur used it on the carbon, or that the carbon became too old? Maybe you'll kill them as well. You learn the sosu from the first. The 3 cases. Only talk about yochid levet tzibur. So you learn only yochid, not tzibur. So do we learn one from each other? Meaning, because the 3 out of the 5, do you learn efsha for efsha means how you can learn from each other? You want to say out of the 5 chatos temesu, 3 don't apply to tzibur, so the other 2 also don't apply. No, the 3 don't apply because it's efsha. It's a male instead of a female. It's something which is not possible. So do you learn efsha mishay efsha? Says the Gemara, according to Reb Shimon, you all learn it from the same place. You all learn it from the same source. So once 3 fall, because of the efsher, so the other 2 also don't exist. It's not 5 different limudim. I say 3 are not here, so the 2 are not here. They all learn from the same place. So once you take away 3, you take away the other 2. So what is the conclusion of the Gemara? So you see from here that what? The Gemara wants to bring a rayo that according to Reb Shimon, the Gemara understands that the same thing applies by shutfim. Right? Right, because by shutfim also, they don't bring the keva, meaning which shutfim, not regular shutfim. The shutfim that we're talking about over here, Bezdin, or Bezdin being a keva, they're being a male. Right? And there's no tumor by shutfim. So the same way you're saying that what does not apply by tzibur, that the concept of 5 chatos meis don't apply by tzibur, according to Reb Shimon, 5 chatos meis don't apply by shutfim either, for the same reason. Because not all of them shaykh by them. So maybe going back to our question, what was our question? We said that if you have one of Bezdin that died, so then the carbon is, you have to kill the carbon. One of the tzibur that died, you're still good. So well, who's that Mishnah? Who's that Brisa? So what's Rameir? So why don't you say it's Reb Shimon? So I'll tell you why I don't say it's Reb Shimon. Because according to Reb Shimon, the din according to Reb Shimon is that if one of the shutfim die, you don't kill the animal. You just said if one of the Bezdin dies, you kill the animal. So who said that? Reb Shimon said. Conclusion of the sugya is that Reb Shimon holds that if all 5 chatos meses don't apply, so none of the 5 chatos meses apply. By shutfim, not all 5 chatos meses apply. So in Mela also the concept of a meisu ba'aleh doesn't apply. So in Mela, when one of Bezdin died, you don't kill the chatos. So in the Brisa that says when one of Bezdin dies, you kill the chatos, that cannot go according to Reb Shimon. So that's the right. That Brisa goes according to Rameir. With this, we finish the first parak of Yechezkel Horayos. Hadol Choyer Bezdin, Hadol Choyer Bezdin, Beis Hashem, and we'll continue Beis Hashem in the next parak in the next daf, Beis Hashem.